Alright folks, time for another one of my match replays. This is using the Echo list that I've been messing around with. This list is fucking sick. I love it. It's a ton of fun. It's good. I've got a green splash right now for main deck Veil of Summer, and I think that is very, very good. It definitely makes the mana base a little unstable, and you can sometimes have a little difficulty against Wasteland decks, but it's not that bad. Just another kink to work around. So you got your 8 cantrips, got 7 protection spells, a fucking 13 business spells, including the main deck Tendrils of Agony, which is just an obscene number. Also, it's worth noting that Doomsday isn't a business spell unless it comes with another business spell. So just about any cantrip or Burning Wish or Draw 4 or Echo can combo with your Doomsday, but I consider it a business spell, but you typically need another one to go with it. Unless you're going to make a pass a turn pile, which can work sometimes. But anyway, then we got 17 rituals and mana rocks and 15 lands. And then a good chunk of the sideboard is taken up by Wishboard, so you got some extra empties, Consigned to Oblivion, which I'm not totally sold on, but it'll stay there for now. Grape Shot is great. It can kill Thalia, and it can also kill opponents after they Veil of Summer you, and then you just Echo a bunch of times and make 20 Storm and kill them. And then you got normal Wishboard options. Tendrils, Contract, Doomsday, a discard spell, another Echo, and then see, this is your real sideboard here, some bounce spells and shit. So anyway, let's get on to the game. So this was a match that I played just a little while back against 5-color Pile, which I believe performed quite well either in the GP Bologna or some of like the PTQ or the events leading up to it. And well-known player Tomas Mar is the king of Pile and has been playing this 5-color Pile list. But anyway, so let's just get into this game. So I won the roll, and I keep this 6, which is a fine 6. It's got protection and a cantrip and a ritual, so probably not, like, a 5 is not going to be better than that, but it's not a stellar 6. It's just fine. I decided to just hold up the Veil, and we'll see an interesting point here. So they Inquisition, I fetch Trop and Veil, and they actually force back, and they force pitching Teferi. So, Teferi, however you want to call it. So, this kind of looks like Esper or something, but I suspected at this point that it was probably the 5-color Pile deck. Haven't been seeing a lot of like Esper Stoneblade around. That's really the other thing that it could be. The fact that they led off on black source makes me lean towards a him deck. Or like a non-white source makes me lean towards the him deck. But anyway, so they force back, which makes me think there's something in their hand they want to protect, but or they just want to deny me the cantrip since I'm down to 4 cards now. So anyway, so it gets forced. They Inquisition and they take my Thoughtseize, which was an interesting situation. I didn't really get that. Like, I feel like taking the Brainstorm is a much more, I don't know, it punishes me harder, but they didn't take it. So I Brainstorm here, I find another Thoughtseize, and I Thoughtseize them, and let's see if we can get the hand. Yep, all they have is an Oko, so I leave them with just lands, which leaves me in a pretty good position here. Because I could potentially even make them discard my Echo. If they send a discard spell at me, I might be able to respond by casting Cavalry, and then the only thing they could take could be the Echo, depending on how things play out. So anyway, but I leave them basically with nothing. So I snag the Oko, I leave them with nothing, pass a turn. They play land and him me, which is great because then the Echo goes into the graveyard. So now I'm able to find, I find a Dark Writ and a Cruel Bargain. And here we'll see something a little interesting, which is that since I'm not under pressure, I decide I just take the Dark Writ. Obviously I can't do anything this turn, but I take the Dark Writ, and then next turn I actually just Dark Writ into Cruel Bargain. And it resolves, so I draw these 4 cards, the LED, 2 Doomsdays, and a Petal. And since it resolved, I decide that I'm just going to fire off the Echo, since it's unlikely that they have counter magic. Now, my hand wasn't very good there. Theirs obviously isn't either, so we're kind of both going to be back up to par in terms of our hands. Now, this is interesting. My hand, my draw is like weird. Kind of shitty, but also, like, obviously having 3 Veils is really good. But I don't have anything else going on. However, I have this Tropical Island up, and I have the Lotus Petal to make another green if I need to play 2 Veils in a turn, so I can just sit on this for a little while. So I just play my land and pass. I hold up the Veil, and they Inquisition me, and I cast Veil in response, and it resolves, drawing me a Dark Red. They don't do anything more for their turn, and so then I crack that, and I think here, actually, so this is, I decide that I think I can make a move here. So if I go, my plan was to Thoughtseize them and then Ritual into Doomsday, make a pass a turn pile, and use the Veils to protect my Echo pass a turn pile. That's going to work out fine if they do anything. But we'll see something a little interesting here. So I cast the Thoughtseize, and they actually cast Drown in the Loch. Right? Yeah, Drown in the Loch. So Drown in the Loch resolves, countering my Thoughtseize, but that is actually a blue spell. So now my Veils are cantrips into a Doomsday pile, which means I don't have to make a pass a turn pile. So I cast the Dark Writ, it resolves, cast Doomsday, Doomsday resolves, and then I think I'll just jump through here. So my pile has to be a little interesting. Stormcount's not really an issue. I was a little worried that they might have main deck Veil of Summers, but I didn't feel like I could play around that very well. I could potentially make like a double Echo pile to try and play around it. But anyway, the pile I make ends up being, I think it's this. Oh, no, I changed my mind here. So, yeah, LED, LED, Ponder, Ponder, Burning Wish. So the plan here, in general, is that, actually, this isn't a very good pile now that I'm looking at it. I think one of these Ponders should really be a Lotus Petal to make sure that you have a potential red source for this Burning Wish. Because what ends up happening is I really need both these Veil of Summers to resolve. But anyway, so I make the pile like that. I put both LEDs on top, and so I can Veil into the first LED and Veil resolve, so now I'm protected when I do the Twister, and then I Veil into the second LED as well. Oh, actually, this is why I didn't include the Lotus Petal. I have a Lotus Petal. Sorry, I have a Lotus Petal that I'm going to crack before I Echo, so that I will definitely have the mana to be able to cast the Burning Wish. But anyway, continuing on. So I wanted to pause there. It's going too fast. But anyway, I use the I use the Veils as cantrips into my pile, protection and cantrip into my pile, and then just did an Echo pile, drew the whole thing, and I cracked the 2 LEDs for blue and red to be able to cast the Echo and have some red floating to cast the Burning Wish. And then I just drew all the mana rocks, and it was pretty easy from there. You can figure out how it works if you think about it, probably. So anyway, that was game 1. So pretty good display of the power of Veil, and even the power of the blue, of Echo against the blue decks, just as a way to kind of gas up again. Even though it resets their hand as well, like having, if you have lands on board, them having a full grip isn't so bad, especially if they don't have any pressure on board. And so gassing back up like that against the blue decks is okay, because you're still just kind of settling in for a long battle. It just means that you have a 7-card hand again. So anyway, this time I'm on the draw, and this hand, I couldn't keep that hand. It didn't have a blue mana source. This one is not as good, but it does have protection. It has a business spell. It has a Lion's Eye Diamond. So there's good stuff going on with this hand. So I decided to keep it. I put one of the lands on the bottom. They just play Snow-Covered Island and pass. I just play Delta and pass. Now, I'm actually really close here. I'm a cantrip short, and depending on the circumstances of the game, this Veil of Summer could actually be my cantrip. So, for example, if I were to draw a Lotus Petal next turn, I would be able to Dark Rit into Doomsday, protect the Doomsday with Flusterstorm, and if they try to counter, which presumably they can because they're holding up the snow-covered island, can protect it with Flusterstorm and then use the Veil of Summer as a cantrip, just as an example. I'm probably not going to do that because if I go Dark Rit into Doomsday and they don't counter, Veil of Summer is not an effective cantrip into the pile. But anyway, so I just play the land, the Delta, to hold up my own Veil of Summer. They play Sylvan Library, which will be a very important card here. I play my land again and pass. And they start drawing with Library, seeing extra cards. They spend some life. And here they play Teferi, which basically renders my Flusterstorm useless, which is not great. Veil obviously can be used just like a silence where you cast it before everything else, so it won't be drawing cards probably. I can't use it reactively, but I can still use it proactively, so that's fine. And actually, I wasn't thinking I was going to be able to win this game, and so I was thinking I might not side in Flusterstorms because of Teferi, even though they're a him deck. But anyway, that ended up not being necessary. So they play Teferi and then pass again. I draw the Lotus Petal that I was looking for, but at this point I don't actually have a cantrip into the pile because I won't be able to respond. I won't be able to protect the Doomsday because of Teferi. So I would need them to cast some other blue spell that doesn't stop the Doomsday for some reason. So I think I crack some fetches here, but I don't actually go for it. Oh, I do go for it. I just decide to cast a Doomsday, and they counter it, and I let it get countered. Okay, so I basically I'm ahead on cards at this point, so I probably am just trying to take some business out of their hand and hope that I can find like an Echo, for example, or a Burning Wish, and use the Veil proactively to protect that, and then just try and go off like that. So I just fetched that. Oh, interesting. I forgot I did that. So I fetched the Trop, and I just used the Veil to cantrip, and I just drew another Dark Red. They draw some more cards at the Library, and I believe they actually spend some life again. So they pay 4 life. So they're down to all the way down to 10 here. They make a mistake right now, I believe. Yep, so they Inquisition, and they take my Flusterstorm, which they actually paused for a little while here in this game. I think they realized that that was a fuck up, and because it's useless because of Teferi. So they basically wasted a card there. They just plus Teferi. I untap. It's another Doomsday, so I'm going to cast it again. Theoretically, I could make like a past 2 turns pile there. That might win the game, but that more than likely that's just getting countered. The thing here is because of the Sylvan Library, they're just going to keep seeing more and more cards, so I really need to try and eat their counter spells as much as possible, and then hopefully draw an Echo, draw a Burning Wish so I could wish for Echo, or potentially even wish for Empty the Warrens because they're at a very low life total, or even like Tendrils or something. But we'll see in a minute how this actually ends up, because I think I win the game on my next turn. So they spend 4 life again. They're all the way down to 6. They play an Astrolabe, and I think that's it. They play a fetch land and just pass. So because they keep activating Teferi, I'm kind of worried about like him or something, or discard spell in my upkeep or my draw step. They never do it. So we'll go a little slower here because this is actually the turn I win. So things I could draw into right now that would let me win the game are a Burning Wish or the Tendrils itself, or potentially Echo, if they don't have any counter magic. The Tendrils itself is probably the best draw for that very reason. So I draw here. I decide to put back the LED and the Volk, because I'm thinking at this point that drawing the Tendrils is my best bet to just actually win the game. Arguably, putting back the Cabal Ritual in the Volk is a better play, because that, like, there's still 4 Burning Wishes left in my deck, and that make Burning Wish live, but there's only 1 Tendrils in my deck. So, but I don't do that. I put back the LED. The other option is to just like if I find an echo, I can just draw the LED a turn later. But so I ponder here, and surprise, surprise, there's the tendrils. So I take the tendrils, and I play my Lotus Petal, play my Dark Rit, it resolves, play Cabal Rit, it resolves, and there's the tendrils. And tendrils resolves as well. And so with a mere storm of 6, I finished them off because they drew so aggressively with Sylvan Library. So yeah, that's how that game worked out. I really didn't think that I was going to be able to win that when I was down to like 3 cards, and they'd had an active Sylvan Library for 3 or 4 turns. But it worked out. So yeah, that's the power of Veil of Summer, I guess. Not that I did anything with it really in this game, but it really is a powerful card, and frankly, I won't be all that surprised if it gets banned at some point. I think I'm not the type of person to be like, this needs a ban, and obviously, like, I like it. It's a powerful card. I'm playing with it. It's good. I think the issue that I see with it is not so much that it's too powerful, but that it's like, because it's so cheap and splashing colors is so easy in Legacy, especially with Astrolabe, maybe that's the real problem. But anyway, because like there's very little cost to just playing another color in your deck, and so there's not a good reason not to play Veil of Summer if you're like, I'm literally playing no other green cards. I have a single green land in my deck, a single green land in my 15 land deck just to play Veil of Summer. Obviously, it's very good for me in particular, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's the right power level for Legacy, but because it only costs 1 mana and draws a card, it leads to like blowouts, and a lot of decks can play it, and so it creates this weird dynamic. Like, I wouldn't be playing Grape Shot in my sideboard at all unless Veil of Summer was in the format, except because Veil of Summer's in the format. I don't think I would need it. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird card. It's obviously very strong, easy for a lot of decks to fit in. I know I've seen people complain about it. It's gotten banned in some other formats. I think Pioneer. I wouldn't be all that surprised if I saw it go in Legacy, but I don't think it needs to necessarily. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope that was educational, and I strongly recommend that if you are a Doomsday player or you have any interest in playing Doomsday, try out this fucking deck. It is bananas.